But the next morning, when all the other engines had gone to their work, the Fat Controller had arrived at Tidmouth Sheds. "All right then," said Thomas. "But you've got to go slowly, Thomas," said the Fat Controller. "Otherwise the light bulb is going to break." "Oh no, and we wouldn't want that to happen now, would we?" said Thomas. Then Thomas arrived at the warehouse to pick up the light bulb. "All right then," said one of the workmen. "You are to go slowly, Thomas," he said. I know," said Thomas, "so it wouldn't break." But Thomas was very worried. If he were going slowly, he might miss the fireworks. Thomas went slowly, but still he felt like he could go fast. At a signal, he met Emily, who was taking a merry-go-round. "You see, Thomas," she said, "I don't have to go slowly as you do." She said. "It's not fair," said Thomas. "Why do I have to take the light bulb instead of something for the festival?" "Don't ask me," said Emily. "If you had been given some other jobs than that, you wouldn't have to pull the truck with the light bulb," she said, and she left away. Later, Thomas met James, who was taking vans of fireworks. "It's not fair," he said. "James doesn't have to go slow, but I do." Then Thomas had an idea. "Maybe the light bulb won't break if I go a little bit faster." So Thomas picked up a little speed. "Slow down, Thomas," said James, "or it might break." But Thomas wouldn't listen to him. He didn't go very fast, only a little. Then he saw Henry pulling swings and seesaw. Even Toby pulling clown costumes, and Percy was pulling some coaches full of children who were wearing costumes. Thomas was more and more excited. "Maybe if I pick just a little speed," he said to himself, "the light bulb won't break." "No, you don't, Thomas," said his driver. "You must go slowly if you don't want to risk the light bulb to break." But Thomas wouldn't listen, but he should have. Up ahead, there were some broken tracks, and Harvey was working on their repairing. There was a barrier ahead, and before Thomas could see it, it was too late. He applied his brakes, but the light bulb was soon broken. "Oh dear," he said, "what a silly engine I am." "Oh my," said Harvey. "Are you all right, Thomas?" he asked. "Yes," said Thomas. "I didn't listen to my friend's advice, and now I've broken the light bulb I was meant to take to the lighthouse at Tidmouth Beach." "You know," said Harvey, "I have been there where you collected, and I saw there's one more in case you broke it. If you go back there and pick it and go very slowly, you might not be in trouble after all." "All right," said Thomas, "I will." So he hurried back to the warehouse, but this time he didn't want to go fast. He wanted to go slowly to make sure it wouldn't break again. Then he saw Gordon with his express flying by. "No, no," said Thomas, "I won't be going fast this time." "That's good to know," said his driver. "I suppose you have learned your lesson now, haven't you?" Then Thomas met Edward at a signal. "I'm going to pick up the Chinese dragon for the party," he said. "I understand," said Thomas. "Say," said Edward, "would you like it if I delivered the light bulb to the lighthouse for you so you could pick up the dragon?" "No, thanks," said Thomas. "I suppose it will be fair if I deliver the light bulb to the lighthouse where I was supposed to. Thomas didn't want Edward to miss the fireworks, in case he would have to go slowly, of course, because Thomas would miss it on his own fault as a punishment for not going slowly in the first place with the first light bulb. Then Toby passed with a core and Edward with the Chinese dragon. "Say, Thomas," said Toby, "would you like to swap jobs with me? Would you like me to take the light bulb? Would you like me to take the light bulb for you, so you could take the core for me and wouldn't miss the fireworks?" "No, thank you, Toby," said Thomas. "I don't want you to miss the fireworks just because of me not going slowly in the first place. If I miss it, it'll be my own fault, and I don't want anyone else to suffer this for me. Well, not, I mean, if I miss the fireworks, it'll be my own fault, and I don't want anyone else to miss it for me just because I was too stupid to go slowly in the first place." "Okay," said Toby. When Thomas had arrived at the lighthouse, it was nearly dark. "I'm so glad you're here, Thomas," said the lighthouse keeper. "I was hoping you would deliver the light bulb here, because if it wouldn't, there might be no light, and ships that would be sailing might crash and not avoid, because nobody would see anything without the light." "You're welcome, sir," said Thomas. Thomas was hoping he wouldn't miss the fireworks, but unfortunately he did. But then Thomas saw something he found even better. When it was completely dark, Thomas could see the lighthouse lighting towards the sea, so the ships wouldn't crash into anything. "Hooray!" said Thomas. "Isn't that a wonderful sight?" "Yes, Thomas, it is," said his driver. "But you wouldn't have to miss the fireworks if you had been going slowly in the first place." "Yes, sir," said Thomas. "By the way, do you recall the Fat Controller yesterday telling us something about the new coal truck?" "Yes, Thomas," said his driver. "Tomorrow morning Bill and Ben will be taking it to the Knapford yard." "Good," said Thomas. "I like shunting trucks and I am very good at it, so perhaps shunting trucks will take my mind off the fact that I missed the fireworks." "But," said his driver, "it's a good thing you weren't selfish and wouldn't insist that Edward or Toby would swap jobs with you, because if one of them did, they might miss the fireworks and it would be all your fault." "Yes," said Thomas. The next morning Thomas was shunting trucks at Knapford Yards, when suddenly Bill and Ben arrived with the new coal truck. The coal truck's name was Hector. He was very evil and very heavy. "Hello, you two," said Thomas. "Why are two engines shunting one truck? I mean, isn't one engine enough?" "Yes," said Bill, "but this truck is very heavy, he's rude, and he wouldn't let us push him. His name is—" They didn't have to say it, because the truck's name was written on his sides. Before he could say the truck's name, Hector said, "Keep away!" Thomas didn't like it at all. Then Bill and Ben left with Hector. Then the Fat Controller arrived. He had gathered Edward and James at the yard, because he had something to tell them. "Today in the afternoon," he said, "you two are to pick up a big load of coal from the coaling plant. And Thomas, he said. You are to prepare the trucks for Edward and James to take. Yes, sir, said Thomas. He was hoping Hector wouldn't be there. Then Thomas arrived at the coaling plant and he saw Hector was there. Thomas wanted to come close to the truck, but instead of a nice conversation and introducing the truck, Wood shouted Thomas. Keep away, he said. Thomas didn't like it at all. He had decided to fill the trucks so as the Fat Controller had told him so that Edward and James could pick them. Then the coaling plant manager arrived. Thomas, he said, Rosie will be arriving to help you. So, when she arrives, meet her with Hector, right? All right, said Thomas. When Rosie arrived, she found that there was a big truck she hadn't seen before. Rosie, said Thomas, this is Hector, but I wouldn't talk to him if I were you. He appears to be, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with him. All right, said Rosie. Let's never worry about Hector. Let's just start filling those trucks. Rosie wanted to help Thomas, but she arrived near Hector, but before she could say anything, Hector would say, Keep away! Rosie was very scared, and so she took off. She didn't want to work near such a scary truck. This made Thomas very angry. First, Hector was hurried to Bill and Ben, then to him, then to Rosie. Now, listen there, young fellow, he said. I don't want you to talk to my friend like that. They've done nothing wrong with you, now have they? Said Thomas. Keep away, said Hector. Thomas had had enough. There will be no such a thing as keep away. Way, you see, he said. We have done nothing bad to you, and even if we had, this isn't the way to repay us. Thomas was so angry with Hector that he bumped into him. There was a huge pile of coal. Because Thomas had bumped Hector very hard, Hector came off the rails. Thomas, said the coaling plant manager, that was very irresponsible. What on earth have you done? Actually, sir, said Hector, it's not Thomas's fault. It's mine. I was shouting at him in the first place, and, well, I see, said the manager. So it wasn't Thomas's fault then, eh? No, sir, admitted Hector. Thomas bumped into me because I was making him mad, so don't blame him. Okay, said the manager. Anyway, I need to telephone the Fat Controller and tell him what has happened, because we need Rocky to lift Hector back on the rails. Yes, sir, said Thomas. Then he came closer to Hector. Hector, he asked, can I ask you a question? What were you doing? I mean, why were you shouting at me, Rosie, and acting horribly towards Bill and Ben? Can I be honest with you, Thomas? Asked Hector. I am scared. I mean, I'm supposed to be filled with coal, but the thing is, I never have been, and I don't know how it feels. Don't worry, said Thomas. Even I'm scared of new things sometimes, but being filled with coal is nothing to be scared of, really. Later, Edward arrived with Rocky the crane, who lifted Hector back on the rails. Thank you, said Hector. By the way, are you Rocky, the one whom the coaling plant manager mentioned? Yes, that's me, said Rocky. And you must be Hector. Edward told me about you. I mean, he told me you were the one that needed rescue. Yeah, said Hector. By the way, said Thomas, now that you're back on the rails, Hector, I'd like to show you how it feels to be filled with coal. All right then, said Hector. So Thomas carefully shunted Hector towards the coal hopper, and he filled his coal bunker, and Hector watched this. "See," said Thomas, "it's nothing to be scared of." "In that case," said Hector, "I'd like to be filled with coal too, now that I know it's nothing to be scared of." "Sure," said Thomas, "that's what you're here for." So Thomas carefully shunted Hector under the coal hopper, and soon Hector was filled with coal. "I'm glad I'm not scared of it any more," said Hector. "Yeah," said Thomas, "I suppose now that you know it's nothing bad, you won't be shouting to anyone now, will you?" "Exactly," agreed Hector. Thomas then shunted him to the coal train, and then James and Edward arrived to pick up the coal trucks. James was surprised to see that Hector is at the end of his train. Well, the thing is, he wasn't expecting him there. But because Hector wasn't horrid anymore, but friendly, James didn't have anything against having him there. "Good luck," whistled Thomas. "Thank you," said Edward and James. They thought the good luck was for them, but in fact it wasn't. It was for Thomas's new friend Hector, who was not horrid anymore. Even though the fat controller had been told why did Thomas cause Hector to derail, and thus he wasn't mad at Thomas for that, he needed to talk to him about that anyway. Later, Thomas was at Knapford Station when the Fat Controller was there too, in order to tell him something about bumping into Hector. "Thomas," he said, "because you have bumped into Hector in order to pay him back for provocating and so on, you need to go to the steamworks to see if you haven't damaged yourself anyhow by bumping into him." "Yes, sir," said Thomas, "but I was able to finish my job of shunting coal trucks." "No matter." "Yes," said the Fat Controller, "but the consequences for damaging yourself due to bumping to Hector can come later, not just after it happens," said the Fat Controller. "So, Victor needs to check you if you're okay. We can't risk to have you damaged now, can we?" "Yes, sir," said Thomas. "By the way," the Fat Controller went on, "tomorrow Alicia Botti will be performing at Whispering Woods Halt. I wanted you to take her from Sodor Airport and take her there, but because you will have to go to the steamworks, I will ask another engine to do it." "Why not Toby, sir?" asked Thomas. "Toby hardly ever takes such important passengers as Alicia Botti. I mean, he usually takes workmen to and from Farquhar Quarry at the end of my branch line. I suppose he'd like a change, eh?" "That's a very good idea, Thomas," said the Fat Controller. So the next day, the Fat Controller had arrived at Tidmouth Shed. "Toby," he said, "I originally wanted Thomas to do it, but he has to go to the steamworks to see if he's not damaged, because yesterday he bumped into Hector the Horrid." "Oh man," said Thomas, "does everybody have to know?" "Well," said the Fat Controller, "Toby, the task I have for you instead of for Thomas is going to the airport with Henrietta and pick up Alicia Botti and take her to Whispering Woods Halt, because she will be performing there." "Yes, sir," said Toby, but he was kinda nervous. "Why are you nervous, Toby?" asked Percy. "You take passengers all the time." "Yes," said Toby, "but I've never taken an important passenger such as Alicia Botti. I mean, what if I will make some mistakes?" "Don't worry," said Thomas. "I have made one yesterday. I bumped into Hector, and only because he was horrid to me." Then Toby had gone to the washdown in order to be washed. Even though he was just being there polished, he was still nervous about making some mistakes. After Toby and Henrietta had been polished, they set off to the airport. When they passed Maron Station, they knew the junction to the airport was closer, and that made Toby more nervous, because that would mean he would arrive there, but the thing is, he might make some mistakes. There was a refreshment inside of Henrietta, prepared for Alicia Botti. Because Toby wasn't going very careful, there was a danger of spilling tea and food and fuss. Alicia Botti wouldn't drink or eat anything along the way. Later, Toby passed Percy. I'm worried I might make mistakes, you know, he said. I'm pretty sure you won't, said Percy. But he was wrong. Toby was so nervous that he didn't see the points ahead and was sent onto a passing loop, and soon he got covered in branches and leaves. Toby ran back onto the main line loop, but then it happened. There was a muddy puddle on the rails, and before Toby could realize this, it was too late. Careful now, said Elizabeth, who was nearby. You don't want to cover with that puddle now, do you, Toby? It's already happened, said Toby. You need to go to the washdown to get washed, said Elizabeth. Then Toby arrived at the airport. Oh my, said Alicia Botti, who was waiting there for him. What on earth you look like, Toby? How it happened? You know, ma'am, said Toby, along the way here I had a smaller accident, you know. Never mind, said Alicia Botti. He got on board Henrietta, and then Toby took them back to the washdown. See, Henrietta, said Toby, I did make mistakes now, didn't I? That's all right, said Henrietta. It wasn't your fault, I mean, getting covered in mud. Nor was the branches and trees and leaves your fault. So Toby and Henrietta went back to the washdown, where they got washed, and then the refreshment lady prepared new refreshment for Alicia Botti, whom Toby then took to the Whispering Woods Halt. Well done, Toby, said the Fat Controller. Toby was very pleased. Even though he had made several mistakes, it wasn't that bad. Later, Toby met Thomas, who was returning from the steamworks. Are you all right then, Thomas? He asked. Yes, I am, said Thomas, and the Fat Controller told me I am to go to Brandon Docks. What for? Asked Toby. To pick up a vehicle there, said Thomas. Wait, is that the one you're supposed to take to the Whispering Wood Halt for some event that is to be held there? No, said Thomas, it's a different vehicle, and the event you're talking about is tomorrow. I am to pick up a lorry and take it to the Scarloy Railway. So it's not the one you're supposed to be taking then, said Toby. No, it's not, said Thomas. Later, Thomas had arrived at Brandon Docks, where the lorry was waiting for him. Hello, said the lorry. You must be Thomas, the engine that will be taking me to the Scarloy Railway, right? I'm Madge. Nice to meet you, Madge, said Thomas. So, after Cranky had loaded her onto a flatbed, Thomas took off. After Thomas had delivered Madge to the Scarloy Railway, Madge drove to the village square at Krosny Kern. Mr. Percival was waiting there for her. "Well done, Madge," he said. "I'm glad you've made it. By the way, I need you to visit Scarloy and Renee's and tell them to get washed, because today there will be an engine rally show here at Crossnickern Square." "Yes, sir," said Madge. "I want you to tell Scarloy and Renee's to get washed everywhere, even behind their buffers." "Yes, sir," said Madge. Although Madge was new and wouldn't know these places very well, she did find Renee's. "Oh, hello," said Renee's. "You must be Madge, the new Lorry." "That's right, Renee's," said Madge. "How do you know what's my name?" asked Renee's. "Because it's written on your side. You've got a nameplate there, right?" "Oh, yes, of course," said Renee's. "That's right." "By the way," asked Madge, "you're supposed to get washed. Uh, and so is Scarloy. Do you know where will I find him?" "He's at the Scarloy Slate Quarry," replied Renee's. "Huh, it's named after him," said Madge. "No, it's vice versa," said Renee's. "Scarloy is named after a station. The quarry is located nearby." "I see," said Madge. So Renee's told her how she'll get there. But Madge was worried. If the engine rally show was today, she didn't have much time. She didn't want to be late, so she decided to take a shortcut, even though that she didn't know it very well. But she would ask someone if they know a shortcut to the slate quarry. But because Madge took the shortcut, she would go over muddy roads instead of the clean ones, and fuss she was dirty. Then Madge arrived at the slate quarry, where she met Scarloy just as Renee told her. "Scarloy," said Madge, "I am to tell you to get washed, even behind your buffers and everywhere," she said, "because of the engine rally show that is today." "Oh, yes, of course," said Scarloy. "You see, I'm covered with dust because I've been working here at the quarry all day." "I can see that," said Madge. Soon Scarloy was polished and covered with bubbles and foam. Madge was pleased to see it. She ran back to the village square. Later, Scarloy and Renee were there. They were both shiny and clean. But then Madge arrived, and she was covered with mud. Mud got even stuck in her muffler. She was about to start when suddenly it happened. The mud that was in Madge's muffler suddenly blown off and covered Scarloy and Renee with mud. This was a disaster. "Madge," said Mr. Percival, "look what you've done to my engines." "I'm sorry, sir. I promise I didn't mean to." "You know," said Scarloy, "perhaps the workmen can wash all of us now." "Okay, then," said Mr. Percival. "I'll ask them to do it. But they must be quick, because the engine rally show will start any moment. It's today, not tomorrow." And soon the engines did get washed, just as they were supposed to, and when the engine rally show began, it was a great success. Elizabeth arrived, and she was glad to see Madge, Scarloy, and Renee polished. She remembered seeing Toby covered with mud, and she was hoping he was polished too after that. "Well done," she said. "This is the best engine rally show I've ever been to. It's a pity it's not located on the Fat Controllers Railway, I mean, if it were, I might see Toby there and see if he is polished too. Later that evening at Tidmouth Shed, the Fat Controller was talking to Thomas. "Well done," he said. "I found out there was nothing wrong with you after all. And you have delivered Madge to Crowburn's Gate, just like I told you. Well done. By the way—" "Yes, sir," said Thomas. "Tomorrow there will be Sodor show hosted at Whispering Woods Halt. I have ordered a new car that I would like you to take to Sodor show. And Gordon—" "Yes, sir?" "You are to pick up a bandstand and take it there. You will both pick it from random docks." Thomas and Gordon were excited. The next morning Thomas and Gordon had arrived at Brandon Docks. Gordon was very excited, and so was Thomas. "I'm going to be there much quicker than you, Slow Thomas," said Gordon. "You wish," said Thomas. "You will be there quicker than me because you're big and fast and strong and, well, I've got only this little car to take and nothing else. You were chosen to take the bandstand because you're stronger than me." Thomas was waiting until Rocky had the Fat Controller's new car loaded on the flatbed. "Hurry up, Rocky," said Thomas. "I'll race you to the Whispering Wood Hall, Thomas," said Gordon. "Let's see whoever gets there quicker." And Gordon set off. "It's not fair," said Thomas. "Gordon wants to have a race with me, but the thing is, he knows full well I'm not as fast, big, or strong as him, nor ever will." After Rocky had finished loading the car on the flatbed, Thomas took off, but the thing is, he wasn't even coupled to the flatbed, nor was the car secured, so it wouldn't fall off. "Wait, Thomas," said Rocky, "you forgot to—" But Thomas was already out of sight. Thomas didn't want to wait for the car to be secured or the flatbed to be coupled to him. He wanted to get to the Whispering Woods Halt as fast as possible. After Thomas had left Brandon Docks, he came to the top of Gordon's Hill, and when he was there, the flatbed with the Fat Controller's car suddenly started rolling down on its own. "Oh no," said Thomas. "I need to chase it quickly." So Thomas picked up speed. He was very worried that the Fat Controller's nice blue car might get damaged. Far away, Arthur was shunting some fish trucks, and then he heard the flatbed coming towards him. "Oh no," he groaned. "What's going to happen?" Then Arthur hid himself on a siding, but he was reversing there so quickly that he bumped into a set of buffers, and his fish trucks bumped into him, and Arthur got covered with fish. Arthur didn't mind the smell of fish, unlike Thomas, but he wasn't supposed to get covered with fish, now was he? Then the flatbed with the Fat Controller's new car rushed by, and so did Thomas. He could see what he had caused. "I'm sorry, Arthur," he said. "So it was Thomas's flatbed that got past me, and why I had to—" "Well, it was Thomas who caused the flatbed to roll here and nearly caused me to derail, eh?" said Arthur. Later, the flatbed went past a muddy rail. Rosie was there just being cleaned, and before she knew it, she was covered with mud, because the flatbed passed her very quickly. Thomas came along, and he could see what else he had done. "I'm sorry, Rosie," he said. "So it was Thomas's fault, eh?" said Rosie. Then there was trouble. The flatbed with the car came on to a siding ending with buffers, and when it landed there, the car, due to not being secured, took off in the air and landed in a haystack. Luckily, the car wasn't any damaged. Then Thomas came there, and when he saw the car, he got shocked. Thomas was so distracted due to looking at the car that has landed in the haystack that he didn't see where he was going and came off the rails, and it was very hard. By going so fast and derailing, Thomas had damaged himself. Just then Gordon arrived. He was glad the car wasn't damaged, and he felt sorry for Thomas. "I'm sorry, Gordon," said Thomas. "If I had rather waited until the car gets secured and the flatbed gets coupled, this wouldn't have happened." "Not to mention you have derailed, Thomas," said Gordon. "Please, Gordon," said Thomas, "could you leave your truck here and go back to Brandon Docks to fetch Rocky? I would pick him myself, but I'm not as strong as you are, and, well, unlike me, you are strong enough to take Rocky." "I sure am," said Gordon. "Not to mention I am derailed," said Thomas. Gordon went back to the docks to pick up Rocky. Thomas was very glad when the two came back. First, Rocky had loaded Thomas back on the rails, and then he loaded the car back onto the flatbed. "Thank you," said Thomas. "You're welcome," said Rocky. "Gordon," said Thomas, "I'd like you to do another favor, will you?" "Sure," said Gordon. "Will you push me and the flatbed with car to the Whispering Woods halt? I don't want the Fat Controller to know what I have done." "Of course," said Gordon. "I sure will." "Thank you," said Thomas. "And then," he went on, "after that, I would like you to take me to the steamworks. You can tell the Fat Controller that I've broken down, but not about how you know what." "Sure," said Gordon. So the two went to the Whispering Woods halt. The Fat Controller was very happy when he saw Thomas was there. "Well done," he had told Thomas and Gordon. "By the way, sir," said Gordon, "Thomas is broken. Shall I take him to the steamworks?" "Oh, oh yes, take him there, Gordon," said the Fat Controller. "Thomas?" "Yes, sir?" "Tomorrow I wanted an engine, probably you, to take a group of school choir from Knapford to Vickerstown because there will be a concert. I thought you might take the choir, but if you're broken, perhaps I might ask another engine instead." "But sir," said Thomas, "if I'll get repaired in time, then perhaps I could." "Well," said the Fat Controller, "then yes, I'll give you a chance. Well, if Victor can fix you in time, then you could." So Gordon took Thomas to the steamworks to be fixed. Just then James had arrived there. He was delivering a flatbed full of paint cans. When he saw Thomas, he had to laugh. Thomas has broken down," he teased. "No, I didn't," said Thomas. But he did. He was just too ashamed to admit it. "Well, if you haven't broken down, Thomas," said James, "then what are you doing here at the steamworks?" "James," said Victor, "you're not supposed to tease an engine just because they break down. I mean, don't you remember the time you broke down?" James was very shocked. "I mean," said Victor, "you're acting as if you never broke down." Because you have broken down hundreds of times. What? Said James. You're only here to deliver the paint cans, said Victor, not to tease anyone about breaking down. That's right, said Thomas. And soon James left. By the way, Thomas, asked Victor, how did it happen to you? Well, Victor, said Thomas, I was taking a flatbed with the Fat Controller's new car to the Sodor show, and I kinda didn't wait until it gets coupled up, and when I reached Gordon's Hill, the flatbed suddenly started rolling away, and I had to go chase after it. And I was going very fast, and due to my speed, I derailed and damaged myself because I was very distracted. And I see, said Victor. Well, you do know now why you are supposed to be coupled to the rolling stock you're pulling or pushing, eh? Yes, said Thomas. I was just too impatient to wait. I mean, Gordon wanted to race with me, so I wouldn't wait until it gets coupled, and I see, said Victor. The next morning, the Fat Controller came to the steamworks. Thomas, he said, are you ready to uh, to take the school choir from Knapford to Vickerstown? Thomas hadn't completed his final inspection, uh, so he had decided not to tell the Fat Controller because he was very worried that another engine might be chosen to take the school choir instead of him. I'm almost ready, sir. The Fat Controller gasped. What do you mean you're almost ready, Thomas? He said. I mean, almost ready isn't enough. You're supposed to be completely ready. I mean, I am ready, sir. Yes, yes. In that case, said the Fat Controller, I would like you to go to Knapford to pick up the school choir to Vickerstown. Thomas was glad to hear it, and off he went. Wait, Thomas, said Victor. What about your final inspection? I mean, we haven't. But before he could complete his sentence, Thomas was gone. Oh well, said Victor. He'll come back after he finds out he should have waited. Thomas had arrived at Knapford Station, and he was ready to pick up the school choir. Then Emily saw him. She could hear Thomas was making some strange noises. What's wrong with you, Thomas? She said. You haven't had your final inspection completed now, have you? Thomas didn't want Emily to know that he hadn't, and thus he's not supposed to take the children to Vickerstown. Don't worry, Emily, he said. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with me. Thomas picked up the children, and off he went. But Annie and Clarabel were worried. Thomas, said Annie, why are you making those strange noises? Is there something wrong with you? No, there isn't, said Thomas. But he was wrong. There was something wrong with him. Later, Thomas met Toby, and Toby had also noticed that Thomas is making some strange sounds. Thomas, he said, don't you need to go to the steamworks to be checked? No, I don't, said Thomas. I've been there, and there's nothing wrong with me. Really? Said Clarabel. But you do sound terrible. Then Thomas started emitting a black smoke from his funnel. At the level crossing, he met Percy, who had also noticed there was something wrong with Thomas. Thomas, said Percy, if you need to go to the steamworks, shall I take your train for you? No, Percy, said Thomas, there's nothing wrong with me. Thomas was very wrong. Later, Thomas had to go to a siding of because of his problems. He couldn't go any further. because he wasn't feeling well. Then James arrived there. "So you are broken then, Thomas," he said. "And that's not all. You even wouldn't complete your final inspection. Victor told me you were too impatient to wait." "Wait, James," said Thomas. "You were right. I did break down, but that's not all. I was afraid another engine might take the school choir instead of me." "Tell you what," said James. "Now that you're broken, let me take Annie and Clarabelle to Vickerstown for you. And Henry is going to take you to the steamworks, because he's not busy at the moment and all the other engines are." "Thank you," said Thomas. Soon Henry came to take Thomas to the steamworks. Victor wasn't surprised at all. "Well, Thomas," he said, "you left before your final inspection, eh?" "Yes," said Thomas. "I was very worried that another engine might be chosen to take the school choir instead of me." "Well," said Victor, "even if it did happen, it is still better to do complete your final inspection." "Yes, Victor," said Thomas. He was too ashamed to admit it, but Victor was right. After Thomas was fixed and was finally officially inspected as final, it was revealed that he's finally okay. The Fat Controller came to see him. "Thomas," he said, "well done. Now you are finally officially chosen to take the school choir back from Vickerstown to Knapford after their concert is over, now that you did wait for your final inspection for real. But I must ask you, why did you lie to me in the first place?" "Because, sir," said Thomas, "I was afraid I might not be chosen if you knew I'm not ready yet. I mean, I was afraid another engine might be chosen." "I see," said the Fat Controller. "Well, James took Annie and Clarabelle to Vickerstown, to what I have heard, and you can go there and wait until the concert is over to take the choir back to Knapford." "Yes, sir," said Thomas. "Also," added the Fat Controller, "tomorrow there will be another show at Whispering Woods Halt." "It will?" asked Thomas. "Yes. A magician is going to show his magic tricks there." Thomas was very excited. "Does that mean I am supposed to pick him up?" "Not exactly," said the Fat Controller. "I'm going to take him by my car. You, Thomas, will be taking something that has something to do with the show, but I'll tell you at Brandon Docks tomorrow in the morning. Or maybe he will." Thomas was very glad. "Does that mean you're not mad at me for not being inspected in the first place and for lying to you?" asked Thomas. "Of course not," said the Fat Controller. "I suppose you have learned your lesson." "Yes, sir, I have," said Thomas. "I didn't want to admit it to anybody." So Thomas went to Vickerstown, and when the concert was over, he took the school choir back to Knapford. That evening, the other engines at the Muffsheds were teasing Thomas about what he had done. Imagine Thomas being too impatient to wait for his final inspection," said James. "I mean, how is that even possible? And he wouldn't even have to go to the steamworks if he hadn't been such a clumsy engine," said Gordon. "Fancy him not getting coupled to his flatbed and leaving already instead of it." "Oh, no. Well," said Thomas, if you hadn't asked me to race with you, Gordon," said Thomas, "I wouldn't have to." "No, it's not that," said Gordon. "You're just too scared to race with me just because I'm faster, bigger, and stronger than you, Thomas. And that was why I wanted to race with you, so you would show you're not as fast as me. You just don't want to admit it now, do you?" Well, said Thomas, that, that is maybe, but it was technically your fault, Gordon. Mine? Said Gordon. Yes, said Thomas. If you hadn't if you hadn't asked me to race with you, this wouldn't have happened. So technically, by pushing me to the steamworks and the Whispering Woods halt, and taking the car with me and bringing Rocky to the place where I derailed, you only put it right. I mean, you made up for your mistake. Gordon knew Thomas was right. Thomas wanted to tell his friends what was his special for the next day, but to punish them for teasing him about his misfortune, he had decided not to do it. The next morning, Thomas had arrived at Brandon Docks. The Fat Controller and the Magician were there waiting. Thomas, said the Magician, I'm so glad you're here. I've got some free various things that I would like you to pick up and take to the Whispering Woods halt. So now I would like you to listen carefully. But Thomas was too excited to listen. At Mateweight, there is a big blue box with stars and moons painted on it. At Meron, there is a carpet, and at Knapford, there is a big yellow tarp. I would like you to pick it all and take it to the Whispering Woods halt. Yes, sir, said Thomas. But Thomas hadn't been paying attention. He was imagining himself as a magician because he was very excited about that. So Thomas arrived at Mateweight Station. What was it again? He said. Then Elizabeth, the vintage lorry, arrived. Hello, Thomas, she said. What are you doing here? I am to pick up some box to take to the Whispering Woods halt, replied Thomas. Is it for the magic show? Asked Elizabeth. I have heard about that. Yes, it is, said Thomas. Then he saw some red box. It was a telephone box, and it was not what he was supposed to take. That must be it, he said. Are you sure, Thomas? Asked his driver. Yep, said Thomas. Load it on my flatbed at once, he said. So the people loaded it there just like Thomas had told them, and Thomas then took off. Wait, Thomas, said Elizabeth. I don't think this was what you were supposed to take. But Thomas had already left. Then he came to Meron Station. From there he was supposed to collect the red carpet. Bertie the bus was there. Hello, Thomas, he said. Are you here to pick up one of those things for the magic show at the Whispering Woods halt? Yes, said Thomas. Then Thomas saw some beach chairs, and they were painted yellow. What was it? Asked Thomas. The magician said something about something yellow for the show. That must be it, he said, pointing to the beach chairs. Load it on my flatbed at once. Are you sure, Thomas? Asked his driver. I mean, I don't think this is what you were supposed to take. Yep, said Thomas. So the beach chairs were loaded, and Thomas took off. Later, Thomas was at Knapford Station. Henry was there. Hello, Thomas, he said. Are you here to pick up something for the magic show at Whispering Woods halt? He asked. I am, said Thomas. Wait a minute. How do you know about the magic show? I mean, I didn't tell you guys anything about it. Well, you didn't, but the Fat Controller did, said Henry. Okay then, said Thomas. Then Thomas saw a blue flag on the platform. Apart from that, there was the yellow tarp that the magician had told Thomas to pick up. That must be it. The magician did say something about something blue, didn't he? That must be the flag. Are you sure, Thomas? Asked his driver. Yes, said Thomas. So the blue flag was loaded onto his flatbed, and Thomas took off. Thomas, said Henry, are you sure you were supposed to take this? But Thomas had already left. Well, said Henry, he was just worried that Thomas might have taken some different things. And he was right. When Thomas arrived at the Whispering Wood Hall, the magician and some group of children were waiting there. Thomas, he said, what on earth are you doing? Oh, hello, sir, said Thomas. I have brought you those things you asked me to take. Not these, said the magician. He could see Thomas had brought a red telephone box, blue flag, and yellow beach chairs. Thomas, he said, you got it all wrong. You weren't listening, now were you? He said. Thomas knew he had to tell him the truth at once. I'm sorry, sir, said Thomas. I was very excited, too excited to listen. Please, could you tell me again what was I supposed to collect? This time I'm going to listen to you, I promise. Okay then, said the magician. So Thomas listened very carefully. At Mateweight, he was to collect blue box that had stars and moons on it. At Meron, he was supposed to collect some. He was supposed to collect the red carpet, and at Knepford, he was supposed to collect the yellow tarp. This time, Thomas listened very carefully. So Thomas returned to the stations where he had made the wrong pickups, and he had returned those stuff he had collected earlier, and instead of them, he was given the right ones, until finally Thomas had had the right things. When he returned to the Whispering Wood Hall, the magician was finally able to do his magic tricks. And Thomas was very happy when he was the star of the magic show. The magician made some flowers bloom out of Thomas's funnel, balloons appear on his cap, and then Thomas was even gift wrapped in the box he had brought. Wow, said Thomas. I love it. And this would happen much, much earlier, said the Fat Controller, if you had been listening, Thomas. He said, I know, sir, said Thomas. I was very excited. I mean, if I hadn't been such a clumsy engine, if I had been listening, this wouldn't have happened. But, on the other hand, said the Fat Controller, you put it right, Thomas. And besides, said Thomas, I was too ashamed yesterday to admit that I was broken down, sir, said Thomas. When I was at the steamworks, Change was teasing me about being broken, and I didn't want to admit it to anyone. The Fat Controller was listening. So instead of waiting for the final inspection, I was pretending to be completely okay. I see, Thomas, said the Fat Controller. Well, you do now know. Why would it be better if you rather did admit it, even if another engine teases you, right? Yes, sir, said Thomas. Well, said the Fat Controller, if it was James's fault that you didn't want to be finally inspected, then I'll have a word with him about that. Yes, sir, said Thomas. But I'm proud of you for taking the children back to Knepford after their concert was over, and for owning up for your mistakes, Thomas, said the Fat Controller. And Thomas was glad too. Nowhere, said Thomas. I found you. It's not fair, said Percy.